What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Travis. Of course, you're watching TWA Motorsports, and in today's video we're going to be robbing some more parts off this thing that I may use down the road on another project, but the rear sway bar I'm going to be using on the red Trans Am. So I need to get it off here because look, we're gonna, once we get the motor and transmission out of this thing, I've actually made an offer to a buddy of mine to take the entire car minus the motor and transmission. And I want to get the brand new Bilstein shocks out of there, the lowering springs from UMI, and the UMI sway bar. If you guys remember when I bought this thing, I've got crap strung everywhere, but these are extra shocks. But back there, that's the front sway bar. I'm not quite ready to put it on the Trans Am yet, but I want to go ahead and get the rear sway bar off, get it kind of cleaned up. I'm sure it's like dusty and dirty. It's almost brand new. But I also want to get the old shocks off, or the old shocks, the Bilstein shocks off, put these stalkers that I have laying around, and I also have a set of stalker rear springs right there. So that is the goal today, guys, is to get that accomplished. Now look, there's several schools of thought on how to take the shock out of one of these cars. Can you take this panel off, flip the carpet over, and there's a kind of a pre-cut area there. The problem is, guys, you'll have to tear that carpet in order to do that. The last video I made on this, everybody's like, oh, you can just, there's a perforation in the carpet. Yeah, there is, but you got to tear it and cut it the rest of the way in order to get it out. So in my opinion, on the later model ones that had the safety latch for car seats, the earlier models, you're not going to have this. Obviously this is an 02, we're going to have it. I want to go ahead and take these out. All right, and those are a T40. Let's get those out of place, and then that'll give us access once we fold the carpet over to the top of the shock. Now I've already taken off this little guy. That should be up on top, but well, I've taken it off on this side. I still got to do on that side. Let's get these out and then we'll move on. Now you can see once I got that out, I'm able to move the carpet around and you get access to the top of this. So you can see the stud sticking through. We need to go ahead and knock that loose. Now notice this is an aftermarket. Generally the top has the ability to put a wrench on it. This one actually is an insert, like a 6mm or 4mm or something. I think this is a 17mm, guys. It should be a 15, I believe, if it's a stock shock. So let's get this out on this side, and we'll push the carpet back and get it out on the other side as well. Now that we've got both sides out, I'm gonna kind of maneuver the carpet back into place, and we're gonna lift the back end up. Now, I don't have any wheels or tires on this, and it's pretty obvious why, because, well, I sold them. But we need to jack the rear end up, and what I like to do is go from the center of the differential, and I'll show you that once I get it done. But we're also gonna need to relax the suspension when we get to that point. So we're still gonna have to have jack stands under there, which, guys, I suggest anyway, but we may position them in a different spot so we have the ability to release some tension on that rear end in order to get the springs out. Now the old springs will be way easier, well, old springs, these lowering springs will be easier to get out than the stalkers, but still we have to relax that rear end in order for that to happen. Now that we're under here, you can kind of see what we're dealing with. Also, I've got my jack stands placed. This is part of a built-in frame rail, so to speak, and it gives you the ability to have something to support it by. Now I'm not quite on them, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a 15mm, and I'm going to start by taking the sway bar end links loose first. And I believe these are 10, actually that's a 13. We'll get this loose, and then we'll get the sway bar completely out of the way. This is one of the things I'm wanting to keep. And actually, guys, that's a 14, sorry, not a 13, but that's also an aftermarket one. See at the top, is it? Yeah, that's a 14. So we'll get a 14, run these loose, the end links loose first. This is what it should look like when you get it out. You'll have a piece of, actually that's polyurethane. So washer, polyurethane, the sway bar, and then polyurethane washer, and then there's a sleeve here. And then obviously this exact same thing on the top. So make sure you get all that out of the way. And I'm gonna go do that on the other side, and then we'll get the D-ring loose, which is a 13. I'm gonna go double check on my red car, but I'm pretty sure those are the factory mounting points with the 13s we just took off. And now you can see we've got the sway bar out, still in awesome condition. I'm just gonna give it a good clean up before we put it on the red car over there. But kind of a score. Now, it's not like a super big one, but it's definitely bigger than the Stalker. Now I went ahead and put the bolts back in place, but now we need to get the shock out. Okay, remember we already got the top loose. The bottom should be a 22 or a 21 millimeter. Helps if you go the right way. So once we get that out, you should be able to push this up. And you can see the car is wiggling. Make sure that you get your top piece of rubber and the disc, and we did. And I'm gonna leave this loose, so I'm gonna go do the other side real quick. Make sure that I'm gonna go ahead actually and let it down a little and get it on the jack stands. That way it's not slamming down on the jack stands. And get the other side out. I've got both shocks out. It's sitting on the jack stands. So now that we've got both those loose, and it's sitting on the jack stands, we're gonna lightly let the rear end down. Okay, so what this is gonna do is it's gonna relieve pressure on the coils. You can see them starting to drop. And so what'll happen is once we get it to a certain point, we'll be able to get those coils out. But remember, we're gonna have to have it down quite a ways in order to get the new ones in. So I think this is probably far enough. Ooh, actually I may be wrong. May need to go a little further down with the jack. And yeah, I'm gonna have to. Now you got it down far enough where we can get them out. Should be able to lift them up, and then depending which direction you want to go, or which way is easier, forward or backwards. And you can see they use the stock isolator on this. We're just going to transfer that over to the old spring or the stock spring, and we just need to reverse this process. Now you may, I don't know, we may have to get it a little further down, like I said, in order to get the other spring in. I'm gonna go grab the other spring so you can see them side by side. Now obviously the Stalker's on the right, but look, you can't really say that, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get, you know, what is that, 3 inches of difference. I'm not gonna get 3 inches of drop. It's just not set up that way. So what these do is they change the spring rate in these, so they're a little stiffer. These probably compress a lot more. So anyway, we just need to put our isolator back on top, and guys, we just go back together the same way. Now this would be how you would lower one of these things in the back. It's relatively easy, and honestly guys, if you had if you're trying to do it quickly, I think you could lower one of these in less than 20 minutes. In the back anyway. When you're going back up, it helps to have somebody else. I've got Cam back there running the jack. Go ahead and slowly jack it up. And what we're wanting to make sure of, you'll probably have to tighten it up a little, Cam, and then jack it up. You jacking it? Keep going. Anyway, you want to center this in this upper cup. And I think we've got it. There we go. Another one, actually, I had to fight to get in, so we know it's centered. Go ahead, Cam, jack it up a little more. All right, that should be good. So now we can go ahead, stick our shock up in there. And if you want, you can go ahead and put the bottom in this opening, but the top, well, that'll help hold the top in so you can get the nut on it. Now we have everything back into place. Got the rear end lifted up, got the bolts just kind of snug down, same way up top. We are good to go. So like I said, guys, not too much to do here in order to swap these springs out. It's relatively easy. As a matter of fact, it's easier to put the lowering spring in because you don't have to have the rear end down as far, and you don't fight as much getting that spring up into the pocket. And then, you know, the shocks are relatively easy. If the carpet weren't in the way, you know, a lot of people, like I said, fold the rear seat down and then do it that way with that perforated area. I don't love that way. I'm gonna get this thing repositioned with the shocks, or sorry, the jack stands back under the rear end. Got this thing set back down the jack stands and supported. It is getting really close, guys, to getting the motor and transmission out. I actually think that is the next thing I want to approach on this car, is to get the motor and trans out. But got the stuff out that I wanted to get out. Like I said, I'm This is stuff that I can either sell or keep for down the road. If we ever buy another F-body, which there's a chance, pretty good chance based off what you've seen on this channel that we could buy another F-body, I will have the UMI lowering springs and a brand new set of Bilsteins for both the front and back. The fronts have never been installed. Obviously, these weren't on very long before this crash or whatever happened. And then, of course, like I said, I'm going to be using the UMI stuff, the sway bar and the end links on the Trans Am, the red Trans Am back there. So got to clean those off a little bit. They look brand new as well. They're just dirty from being under the car, but can't argue with, I don't even know. I think those UMI and Bilstein setup is like $900, and then the sway bars are probably another 500 or more. So I think that's a score. That's a win on this car. But like I said, hopefully you guys did enjoy this video of the unlowering, I guess you would call it, of the Trans Am, or the removal of more parts. If you did, please, like always, go down there and smash that thumbs up button. Guys, stay tuned for the video when we pull the motor out of this. It's going to be happening hopefully soon. Go down there, ring the bell notification. That'll notify you every time we drop a new video, and stay tuned to see what we work on next.